Moving countries can be one of the most exciting and most challenging things you'll ever do. And we're here to take one big worry off your plate: your taxes. At Expat Taxes, we understand the complexities of Irish tax from your perspective as an expat and tailor our advice to your needs. With decades of expertise, our team at Expat Taxes will help you navigate tax residency, cross-border taxation, reliefs and returns, and will work with your country's tax advisor to make sure your taxes are sorted. Whether you're an individual or a corporation coming from Australia, the United States, the UK, or anywhere in the world, we want to help you. So visit us at expattaxes.ie to book a consultation today, and let's make moving to Ireland easier together.
Welcome to Tax Bites for Expats, the top tax tips you want to know as an expat. The podcast is here to help answer the common queries and concerns expats have when moving to or from Ireland. Complex taxes explained simply. We'll focus on the Irish and international tax issues to be aware of to ensure you save time, money, and stress.
Hi everyone, podcast producer Matt here, stepping in for Steph, who is still busy as we get closer to the new year. This episode is part 2 with John Healy of Healys Insurances, so if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, scroll up in your feed and give it a listen. Healys is known in the expat community as the place to get insurance, usually for cars. Mary Doyle is the name most of you would know, but John has been working insurance for decades. In part 2, we hear more great tips about getting your car insurance as an expat, a few insurance myths busted, and some crucial stories that Steph and John share around insurance that can help you with your insuring experience. Remember, all the good stuff is in the show notes. Enjoy!
I do think, for the person who's listening to this and maybe is planning a move, there's a couple of things that they can be proactive about. So the first thing would be, how quickly are you going to get your no claims bonus documentation from the foreign broker? Is there anything else that they need apart from the 3 things that we've listed, you mentioned at the start? And, if there is any other tips or things that people should be aware of when they are going into the kind of getting a quote phase. Use a broker is the first piece of advice, but what would you say?
Yes. So there's a few things. So we've touched on the bonus, we've touched on the license and the air code. The big piece of data that would be next, that has to be exact, is the car reg. So when we, in the old days, which aren't that long ago, you could pick a blue Ford Escort and I could give you an estimated price. Those days are gone. So now it needs to have a reg to get an exact quotation. And what tends to happen with that process is, we don't see this inside in our office. We just click the screen and it matches the car. What's happening in the background using all the technology, there's 220 pieces of data behind that reg. So it has the NCT, it has the mileage. And what you'll see at times is a load of insurers saying no to the car. We're looking at this going, whoa, what's going on here? There's a story here, obviously. It could be something as simple as the NCT and the tax are both out. It could be sitting in a garage for a year for sale. That's explainable. But it could also be the fact that it was used as a taxi in Dublin. The mileage could be massive, might have been involved in crime. We won't get that data. It'll just decline insurer 1, no quote, car issue or car question, or, there'll be something like that. So it actually happened to a friend of mine a number of years back when this came in first, the reg, what do they call it? The car reg synchronization. And he was changing cars midterm and the company wouldn't do it. On my system, I said, Gar, there's something up here. Will you go back and ask the garageman, was this car crashed? Was there something in the past? Anyway, he got back a couple of days later. He said, yeah, thanks for that. Car was crashed before. So obviously I didn't buy it.
Oh my goodness. So the insurers would decline to insure because obviously it was a sufficiently serious crash.
Yes. Now there's different levels of write-off. There's some write-offs that are acceptable to be fixed and go back on the road.
Right.
And then there are others that are, no, that should not be put back on the road. And funnily enough, I haven't seen this issue now in a long time, to be fair, but at the moment, the second-hand car market, it's hard to get cars.
Oh yeah, it's very tight, isn't it? My husband's a avid car enthusiast.
I don't want to predict anything, but perhaps there's more of that refixing cars than we realize out there, because, anywhere
Mm.
where there's a short market of things, there'll be people trying to find ways to get around that. But yeah, so the car reg is a huge piece of that. And when I say the car reg, I would take into account the size of engine of the car and the year. I suppose they're the two biggies.
Yeah, they drive the. Yeah, okay.
So I wouldn't go too old in the car, up to 15 years. And obviously, as a rule of thumb, the larger the engine size, the more powerful the car, the higher the quote. Usually,
Yeah.
I'm taking very broad strokes now with that.
Now that's a very interesting point, because that is a concept that I know does not hold in Australia, and I don't believe it holds in the US.
It doesn't, no.
We penalise here cars based on emissions. Larger
Mhm.
cars emit more, therefore they are taxed higher and correspondingly often have higher insurance premiums. It's aimed, I suppose, to be a disincentive for kind of emitting engines. Who knows?
Yeah, on the tax side, yes, the car tax side. On the insurance side, I think it's as simple as the more powerful the car, the faster it goes. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's old style underwriting.
yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Slight departure from car insurance, but I'm just conscious that, if people are trying to be smart about their money, is there an advantage to combining home and car insurance with the same broker when you're in this niche? Is that where clients can kind of, I suppose, drive a bit of value from the whole exercise? And because, in Ireland, if you're mortgaged, you generally need house insurance.
You do. So yes, on behalf of the broker side, it definitely helps. But funnily enough, from an insurer side, it's a bit of a nightmare. So we do get that question asked of us an awful lot. My car is with insurer A. Can I not have my home with insurer A? And our answer 9 times out of 10 will be, well, they're both not the most competitive for your risk segment. So
Mm,
that's why most of our customers are actually insured separately for car and home
okay.
with different insurers.
Wow.
The bundling thing tends to be a bit of marketing, to be fair.
Okay, right. So that's again the value of using a broker.
Yes.
Take it the same. You guys do health insurance as well?
No, not anymore. It was something we found very challenging. We pulled out of that about a good number of years ago now.
Mm,
Very challenging area, actually. I see there's a new entrant in the last week, actually, which should shake it up a little bit, but it's a challenging area.
I think you've imparted so many different insights there for people. I've even learned from listening to you things I would not have known. And as always, we always seem to say in this podcast, it pays to be organised. Any other nuggets of information you'd like people to go away with, or do you reckon we've hit the main nails on the head?
Just a couple of ones. We've gone through most of it. Beware imported cars. We see it a bit. And don't buy the car without checking the price of the insurance, please.
With that in mind, if you are going to look at a car, you can ring a broker with the registration. So you said you don't get pre-approval, but you can get an indicative cost.
You can get an indicated quote, and at least we know there's a market then, because ringing at 5 to 5 to say, yippee, I have the car, might be a problem if we don't know the car.
And tell me about the imported cars. So thinking about our UK listeners bringing cars across that might have met the criteria to be outside the VRT net because of having met the ownership requirements. Why is that you would recommend?
So UK is probably all right, because it's been going on for so long at this stage now. And I know it slowed down, didn't it? Wasn't there that tax implication that changed a couple of years ago?
So we still have VRT on cars coming in from the UK. I know my husband has brought in a few cars, and the tax implications, I suppose, are still as punitive as they always were. VRT is imposed on cars, coming in, unless somebody has essentially owned them and driven them for a period of time, both before and after the importation.
Okay. Yes, there's a bit. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
I suppose the value. The market, I suppose, is given how second-hand cars are here at the moment in terms of price. There's definitely more value in the UK market.
So what we're seeing, the UK ones would be fine. Mostly, though not all, you're talking about the same models as well. Where we see the issues are Japanese imports, which some insurers won't touch them. And then you're pushed into a niche insurer, and the rates are much higher. Like, I'm talking much, much higher. And the other one, what we see a lot of recently is bringing home cars from Australia, actually, in
Right,
shipping
yeah, we did
containers.
that actually. We did get insurance, I think, but it was pretty pricey because it was a big.
They're bigger. Yeah, they're bigger. And, I'd put a health warning on it a little bit. This is only my own personal intuition, but there could be a problem with these going forward. Like, I know
Hmm.
I've been dealing with insurers for 25 years. Insurers are mostly risk averse. All it takes is one accident involving a vehicle that was perhaps imported into the country
Hmm.
and maybe wasn't synced right on the system. Are the parts going to be readily available for a vehicle that's not available in the Irish market other than importing it?
Sometimes no, because sometimes they're actually models that don't exist on the Irish market.
Exactly. So, and the other thing with that is you're kind of tying your hand behind your back. You might get covered the first year. And what happens if that insurer decides, we don't want that business anymore now? I just think it could be a tricky area down the line.
Probably serves to highlight the value of putting the reg through an insurer's
That's right.
database because you don't know what you're buying.
It does, absolutely. And just to get back, that kind of ties in. I'll arc back a little bit to the price of insurance. Like at the moment, the biggest thing driving motor insurance costs is motor damage claims. I will have mentioned the injuries. That seems to have been slightly sorted. The guidelines are there. The damage cover is costing insurers an absolute fortune. Why? Because of labour shortages, supply chain issues with parts, mechanics, labour, getting things done is still a huge issue, and cost. The cost of anything now, cost of a bumper has gone up exponentially.
So, and this is probably a generic insurance question, and I'll ask you it. You're out driving and you damage your own car, right? Aesthetically, not structurally. Would you ever claim on your own insurance, or do you try and pocket? So, in other words, as a broker, what it's going to do. That's a measured decision?
Yeah. Again, a lot of it depends on your age. Like if you're a younger driver who's paying an awful lot and hasn't built up their bonus, don't claim. If you're over 20, I ran into a herd of deer a couple of years ago out in Killarney
Oh,
after I did a walk.
I hope they were okay.
They were grand, yeah. The last they ran, my car wasn't. The last fella. It was the last fella I hit, actually. It was lucky he didn't come in the windscreen, but my
Wow.
car was fairly damaged. I could drive it all right, but the light and the bumper and the whole lot came to I think, about 3.5, 4 grand. That was
Oh,
too
yeah.
much to not claim for.
Yeah, it's too much out of your pocket, isn't it?
It is. So that went through, and my premium went up. But I had bonus protection. You can protect your bonus for 50 quid. That's a little nugget for people as well. Any of the online quotation engines, it's a tick box because they want to sell the cheapest product. Again, it's marketing. It's fantastic. It's like Ryanair. If you want the proper stuff, you pay for the bags, you pay for the bonus protection, pay for the windscreen. So my premium didn't go up that much. As a rule of thumb, you should probably pay for something if it's in the hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being realistic about it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can.
If you can. And we have that conversation a lot, with people, it could be 1,200 and you're going, that's up to you. If you can, but if you can't, then pull the trigger on it. And,
Yeah,
it can be
that's the
difficult.
point.
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, I've actually learned from this, and I have no intentions of taking out insurance. My husband deals with all that, thankfully.
Yes.
There's usually one spouse in the household.
Oh, look, I'm an insurance nerd. I love this stuff. There is so much in it these days. But it's all good. It's all interesting, Motor insurance tends to be reasonably competitive at the moment, though it's a bit on the up. Home insurance is okay. It's on the up. That's a whole other discussion. But they're necessary things. And it's important, I think, to get the right advice. We're a people-facing, face-to-face broker who use technology in the background.
Yeah, and there's huge value in that.
I think there is. Look, we all know that you can, a 10-minute phone call gets an awful lot more done than a thread of emails over 2 weeks.
Oh, definitely. Or talking with an AI bot, which is
That's right.
frustrating.
It can be, yes.
How should people contact you and your team? John?
So phone is the best, or email. Absolutely. What we tend to do with Mary Doyle, who looks after our new business quotes for expat and repat business, it tends to come in on email.
Right.
And then what we do is we set up calls and appointments with her and kind of request those documents that we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
So what we would get an awful lot of would be they'd send in the license, the American license, the Australian license, with maybe a copy of their no claims bonus from a previous year that shows 5 or a more recent one. And some of them then will, they'll have enough data to give us mom and dad's air code, things like that. And we can get the ball rolling almost. Yeah.
Started. What's Mary's email address?
Mary@healyinsurances.ie.
Brilliant. We'll drop that in the show notes. And the website?
Not working at the minute. I have it down. So that's coming back. It'll be Q1 next year, unfortunately. Yeah.
Thank you so much, John, for your time and for those amazing insights. There's so much in that. I think we'll have to get you back on in due course to talk about home insurance.
Absolutely. There's a lot in that.
Yeah.
I'd be delighted to. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. And we look forward to having you on a future episode.
Wonderful. Thanks, Steph.
Thanks for listening to Tax Bites for Expats. Please do leave a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast. And as always, remember to take professional tax advice specific to your personal circumstances before acting or refraining from action in connection with the matters dealt with in this series. The material in this podcast is intended to give general guidance only.